Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. Imagine you are one of the world's most talented, young, artificial intelligence researchers, maybe fresh out of a top PhD program. You get two amazing offers. One's got a huge salary, massive stock options, a seat right in Silicon Valley. The second, instant golden residency, zero income tax, and, this is crucial, guaranteed, completely unfettered access to the best supercomputers. Maybe in Dubai, maybe Riyadh. Which one do you pick? That choice, a really tough choice, well, it perfectly frames this high-stakes global race for AI talent. We're talking trillions of dollars here. For the very brightest people, it's not just about the paycheck anymore. It's about your whole career path. And yeah, right now, America still has this really fearsome lead.
It really does.
But its rivals, the Gulf states, Europe, China, they're pushing hard. They're challenging that dominance, not just with cash, but with compute power, easy visas, tax breaks.
All the levers.
Exactly. So today we're going to unpack what's keeping that talent sort of locked down in the U.S. and, crucially, what it might take for that logic to finally crack.
And we really have to start by just acknowledging how dominant America is right now. The numbers, they're quite staggering. Our sources show back in 2022, over half of the world's sort of elite AI researchers were based in the U.S.
Over half. Wow.
But here's the kicker. The real story is retention. About 90% of international AI PhDs who study in the U.S., they take their first job there.
90%?
And then over 80% stay for at least 5 years. So once they're in that American ecosystem, they are incredibly sticky.
Sticky. That's the perfect word, isn't it? It suggests it's not just about who writes the biggest check. There's something, I don't know, deeper. Structural. Locking people into California. We're really talking about the logic of AI clusters, that self-reinforcing thing.
Exactly right. The biggest source of American strength. It isn't just the VC money or the big salaries. It's the physical geographical cluster, mostly the Bay Area. And to really get why this works, you kind of have to rewind way back. Like 1890, Alfred Marshall's Principles of Economics.
Okay, back to Victorian economics. That's interesting. What was Marshall's argument about these geographic clusters?
Well, he argued that when firms in the same industry bunch together geographically, they get three big advantages. First, a shared pool of specialized workers.
Makes sense.
Second, access to specialized suppliers, the law firms, the chip designers, whatever's unique to tech. And third, and this is probably the most important for AI, those informal knowledge spillovers.
The whole ideas travel faster down the hallway than across continents thing.
Precisely that. If you're a young researcher, those chats in the hallway, the late night brainstorming in the cafeteria with someone maybe a bit more senior working on a similar problem, that's gold. It's invaluable.
Right.
And Adam Jaffe actually proved this empirically back in 1993. He showed American patents were cited way more often by researchers nearby than by ones far away. Proximity really boosts innovation.
So being close isn't just convenient, it's actually economically vital for cutting-edge stuff. And once a cluster gets big enough, it just sort of snowballs, doesn't it? I think Paul Krugman called this the new economic geography.
He did, yeah. Once that cluster forms, companies and workers tend to stick around, even if costs go through the roof. I mean, look at California rents. Astronomical for decades, right?
Still are.
But the talent stays. And the Bay Area's origin story just highlights how random but powerful this history can be. Stanford encouraging Hewlett and Packard, Cold War money flooding in, William Shockley's lab spinning off Fairchild Semiconductor. You just can't easily replicate 50 years of quirky history overnight.
True. But history isn't always destiny, is it? Clusters have downsides, soaring costs, maybe becoming too reliant on one thing, incumbents getting entrenched.
Sure, there are risks.
And while Silicon Valley is still pretty diverse, the pressure points must be showing somewhere. So where are the challengers actually starting to, chip away at this dominance?
Well, they're chipping away where the U.S. seems maybe most vulnerable. Infrastructure and immigration friction. Look, traditionally, we always said money was the big lure. And it's true. U.S. AI firms pay roughly double what foreign ones do. Plus, you get those tempting stock options.
Yeah, the options.
And surveys back this up. 53% of hiring managers say compensation is the deciding factor.
So cash still talks loudest. But maybe it's not the only thing people are listening to anymore.
That's the critical point we need to dig into here, I think. Compensation is decisive if you're choosing between, say, San Francisco and New York. But for the absolute cutting-edge research today, salary is often secondary to two other things: the sheer scarcity of compute power and the rise of U.S. policy friction.
Okay, the compute choke point. We mean GPUs, right?
Yeah.
Massive data centers, the energy to run them, that's now potentially worth more than a bigger salary.
Absolutely. Think about what a top researcher needs to really push the boundaries. It's probably not another million in the bank account. It's guaranteed, dedicated access to huge clusters of NVIDIA GPUs, maybe for months straight.
Right.
And that kind of access, it's often scarcer than money. Scarcer even than getting a visa quickly sometimes.
And this must explain the huge sums we're seeing being spent, especially from the Gulf states.
Exactly. That's why these sovereign deals are now measured in the tens, even hundreds of billions. The UAE is reportedly spending $100 billion on NVIDIA systems. Saudi Arabia's PIF, they launched a $40 billion AI fund. They aren't just buying salaries, they're buying the infrastructure. The raw capability that, frankly, money can't always buy quickly in today's market. They're guaranteeing the research of the tools.
Okay, so while competitors are making it easier to get those tools, the U.S. seems to be adding friction, right? Where its talent pipeline is strongest, those international PhDs. That new policy on H-1B visas really stands out.
It really does. We're talking about this new fee structure. It includes a huge $100,000 fee for certain H-1B petitioners. Usually it's companies that rely heavily on H-1B workers or are just very large.
$100,000 per petition.
For certain types, yeah. It's not a fee for absolutely everyone, but it hits exactly the kind of companies where many early career international researchers get their first job.
So it's not an across-the-board tax, but it's a targeted barrier. Makes hiring young international talent way more expensive and complicated for those specific firms.
Right. And even if the really established stars can use the O1 visa, the extraordinary ability route, that $100,000 friction, it inevitably pushes some decisions, maybe the borderline ones, towards places that are actively removing barriers. Think Canada, the UK, the Gulf. They've all streamlined their tech talent visas. It feels a bit like an unforced error in this global talent war.
Okay, so if the U.S. is creating friction, the challengers are definitely trying to capitalize. The flows are shifting, you said. Only a quarter of migrating AI stars went to America last year.
That's what the data suggests, yeah. And Gulf inflows surged, apparently up 8% in 2024.
Wow. So let's look at their playbooks, starting with the big spenders, the Gulf states trying to basically buy a cluster.
Yeah, the Gulf strategy, the Saudi Arabia, UAE, it's about pure scale acquisition. They're offering golden visas, zero income tax, building world-class universities like MBZUAI in Abu Dhabi, pouring money into data centers.
But does it work? Does it create that cluster magic?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? It leads us back to the cluster logic. Money buys the hardware. It buys the labs. But does it buy 50 years of those informal hallway chats, that quirky history?
That's the challenge. How do they get around lacking that dense, interlinked history Silicon Valley has?
Well, the key insight here, I think, is that the talent map today might be less about countries and more about where the compute sits and where your immediate colleagues are. They might be bypassing the need for a whole national cluster by creating these very concentrated, very powerful satellite clusters.
Satellite clusters. Tell me more about that model.
Okay, look at the Microsoft deal with Abu Dhabi's G42. It's like $1.5 billion. That arrangement is anchored by guaranteed access to GPUs. So the research work itself often plugs right back into U.S. firms that need that scale.
Okay.
So the researchers get the compute they were promised. They don't have to wait in line like they might in the U.S., and the work gets done. It shows the lab can be physically in the Gulf, working on something specific, but still collaborating closely with peers back in London or San Francisco.
Okay, let's shift east. China. They took a totally different route, didn't they? Focused almost entirely on growing their own talent pool.
Massively so.
Right?
And on the output side, they've had huge success. By 2022, nearly half the world's elite AI researchers got their first degree in China. They have vibrant local hubs like Shenzhen, Guangzhou.
But there's a flaw.
A big one. The government restrictions on academic exchange, the difficulty foreign researchers face operating there. It means these hubs struggle to become true global magnets. They don't easily attract top talent from the West or Europe. So they have the domestic brainpower, but maybe not enough of that cross-pollination you need for long-term leadership.
Right. And finally, Europe. Great universities, good lifestyle, but they seem fragmented. They often lose their talent.
Yeah, Europe's strategy feels like a fragmented appeal. Countries like the UK, Germany, they offer smoother immigration, fast-track visas. They produce superb talent.
But
that talent still often heads to California. For double the salary, yes, but also for those guaranteed links to industry. And critically, Europe is adding its own unique kind of policy drag.
you mean the big AI Act?
I do. Look, the goals might be laudable, promoting safety and all that.
Yeah.
But the act creates this huge layer of compliance complexity. If you're a small European AI lab trying to scale fast, navigating those sweeping, complex rules, that's a significant operational cost. It's a drag that Silicon Valley firms just don't face quite yet, not to the same degree.
So that compliance burden slows them down.
It inhibits rapid iteration, makes them less competitive globally, and it potentially pushes talent towards less regulated places, or just back to the U.S.
Okay, let's pull this all together. If you're running a lab or you're a government trying to compete, the playbook has definitely changed. What's the new key factor if it's not just cash anymore?
It's the guarantee, the ironclad guarantee. For founders, you lead with compute access, service-level agreements, SLAs, guarantees of publication freedom. Equity comes after that. If you can't promise dedicated processing power, your offer is instantly weaker, even if the cash is good.
So the smart play for a global AI lab might actually be geographical separation?
Absolutely. The strategy we're seeing emerge is base your core research teams inside the existing clusters. San Francisco, London, maybe Toronto. Get that collaboration buzz, but then strategically rent that guaranteed compute from the Gulf through partnerships.
Ah, best of both worlds.
Kind of. You get the cluster benefits without the relocation hassle, and you secure that crucial infrastructure.
And for governments wanting to seriously challenge the U.S., what's their playbook look like?
Governments need to guarantee compute first. Offer credits on national clusters, predictable queues, maybe subsidize energy. Second, tackle the friction the U.S. is creating. They need a single, fast, extraordinary talent visa lane, like the US-01, but with, say, 30-day decisions and guaranteed work rights for spouses. That combination, it moves the needle way more than just tax breaks.
You mentioned tracking guaranteed compute. You used the term PF days earlier. What exactly should we be watching for there?
Right, PF days, processing facility days. It's basically guaranteed time on a specific named supercomputer cluster. It's becoming the new currency, in a way.
Okay.
So we should watch for job offers that explicitly promise XPF days on named sovereign clusters. You know, partners using the UAE's Condor system or Saudi's Falcon.
Yeah.
That shows compute is actually being priced into the offers. It makes it quantifiable.
And what other signals tell us if this map is really shifting? Or if this is just, expensive window dressing by the challengers?
We need to track those U.S. retention metrics really closely. The CSET NSF updates on the 5-year stay rates for AI PhDs, that's the bellwether. If we see a real drop in that 80+% retention rate, maybe linked to that $100 KH-1B friction.
That would be huge.
That would be a massive indicator that the policy is backfiring on U.S. interests.
Yeah.
And that this satellite cluster model, fueled by compute guarantees, is successfully starting to pull talent away.
It's definitely clear that while those classic physical clusters are sticky, incredibly sticky, money plus guaranteed compute, that combination is seriously chipping away at America's lead, the choice for the best researchers. Well, it's not so obvious anymore, is it? Especially if rivals get to the point where their own clusters start feeding on themselves. So here's the final thought for you. If the world's most valuable asset right now truly is AI talent, is that new $100,000 H-1B fee really an investment in American security? Or is it, perhaps unintentionally, the most effective recruitment campaign the UAE, Canada, and the UK could possibly have hoped for? Thanks for listening. Follow us for daily insights into world affairs. And don't forget to like, comment, and share.